Oh,
Please proceed.
okay, thank you. We really appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you about something that affects all of us, and that is physician recruitment and retention. Next slide. So as you know, we are in the middle of a physician shortage crisis. You can't open up your computer and look at a Google search or a headline without having this point driven home. Next slide. So Wawa is also feeling the effect of the shortage, and we are also in the news. We had 2 OMA reporters come to Wawa in November and complete a 2-part series on the physician shortage. The first article focused on Dr. O'Brien and Dr. Cotterill as the last 2 doctors standing in our community at the time. And the second article focused on our locum recruitment, which is allowing us to stay open. There's also been a fair bit of coverage recently about Dr. Switzer, and she's been featured on the agenda with Steve Paikin, as well as in a global news article recently. So the physician shortage in Wawa means that our medical group is working 4 physicians short, and that the Wawa Family Health Team is seeing over 3,000 patients a year who don't have a primary care provider, either a physician or a nurse practitioner. However, no matter how dire the circumstances, I firmly believe in this quote, that people working together in a strong community with a shared goal and a common purpose can make the impossible possible. That strong community has been built through the creation of the North Algoma Medical Retention and Recruitment Committee. The Wawa Medical Group, the Lady Dunn Health Center, and the municipality of Wawa came together to form this collaborative. And the community has since grown with the representation from the Township of Dubreuilville, as well as Argonaut Gold and Alamos Gold. With the formation of the NAMRRC, the role of physician recruiter was created. The role is best summed up as primary physician contact. From the first introduction at a recruitment conference or on a social media platform, to the first email correspondence, the first meeting upon arrival in Wawa, I'm the physician contact and advocate. I book the locum dates, source accommodations, the planning and providing equipment for recreational opportunities while the physicians are in town, and source any items that they may have forgotten to bring or that would make their stay better. So how do we find these doctors to come to Wawa in the first place? Primarily by attendance at recruitment fairs and through social media posts. Attendance at recruitment fairs puts us in direct contact with physicians who are soon graduating and looking for their first independent practice opportunities, or with physicians who have been practicing for 1 to 5 years or longer and are looking for a change. These are the social media posts, sites that we post on. The Health Force Ontario and the Family Physician Job Opportunities Ontario are free advertising for our job posts, whereas Cherry Health is a service that we pay small monthly amounts. So have we had success? Yes. As you know, Dr. Matt Breton and his partner Dan moved to Wawa, and Dr. Breton joined the Wawa Medical Group in January. As well, our success is notable in that we haven't had to close our emergency department due to physician shortage. And this has been achieved by keeping a solid roster of locum physicians, booking them well in advance, and maintaining good relationships. So this is a collage that we created last year for National Physicians Day that featured our physicians at work and play. Word of mouth is a really big thing that we work on, and as such, we have to make sure that our physicians, when they come, have good experiences. So that begins before they come to Wawa, in ensuring that they've been well oriented to the practice that they're going to be entering, and then meeting them upon arrival, bringing them into the family health team and the Lady Dunn Health Center and ensuring that they have good experiences there, and then also bringing them into the community to show them what Wawa has to offer after work as well. So this is what keeps our locums coming, feeling that they are a part of the community, that they're needed and that they're appreciated, and in the case of our exit interviews, that they're heard. Retention for our core group is a little bit more challenging. The best thing that I feel that I can do for the core group is get them another doctor. Second best is to continue to provide locum coverage to ensure that they have the time off that they want and need. One of the biggest challenges that we have in recruitment of a full-time physician is the distance that we are from the GTA. Population density means that everyone's friends and family is a 10-hour drive away. Alamos Gold has helped to reduce this to a 2-hour flight since they have made their charter service available to our physicians, and that has given us a big edge. In the past, we have been successful in recruiting from our locum and resident physician pool. We have held this premise to date, believing that if we just bring in enough locum, we'll find the 1 or 4 that want to stay. That may be true, but we seem to have a pretty good locum right now. And while we have had nibbles at the full-time, we've been successful in getting a full-time recruit. Locums in general are quite happy being locums. They have maximum flexibility and no overhead costs and a good income. So now we're taking a more direct approach to find the physicians who are looking for full-time work, which gives them stability, work-life balance, and rent-free housing provided by the Lady Dunn Health Centre for 2 years. This is one of the ads that we're running on Kerry Health, and as well, Alamos Gold is helping us to drive home this point by funding a rebranding project that's focusing on the full-time physician. We are very grateful for the support of the municipality of Wawa. We thank you for your financial contributions and also for your in-kind contributions. Our locums are very appreciative of having 24-hour access to the MMCC Fitness Center and the goodwill of the MMCC staff. This is the community coming together. Next slide. This is the community coming together with a shared goal and a common purpose to make the impossible possible. Next. While we have much to be grateful for to date, we aren't quite there yet, but perhaps we are turning a corner. The doctor shortage crisis has been identified and there's a political will to fix it. We need to continue our efforts to ensure the sustainability of recruitment activities. We just need to hold on a little bit longer to get to the other side. So we are here to respectfully ask for the continued support of the municipality of Wawa as per the previous agreement and bylaw to continue through the 3 years, 2024, 25, and 26. Thank you for your time.
Very much, Anne. Council, does anybody have any questions for Anne? Councillor Hatfield?
And you're very much, you don't toot your horn at all. Anne's the reason we are where we are today, plus the CAO at the hospital, absolutely. And can you sort of tell everybody here, like when you got on the board, there wasn't that many locums, but when I went to see you and you showed me everything you do, which overwhelmed me, there was 19, you had 19 locums. Like, could you talk a little bit about that?
So we have a calendar that shows all of the locums that are incoming as on a schedule. And we always have, generally speaking, we have 2 locums in town at all times. And if our physician group is out of town at all, then more locum physicians. So particularly in the summer, we may have 4 locums in town at any particular time. So what that means, you need a huge roster because because locums generally come for 7 to 10. Sometimes you can get them to stay longer. Sometimes they'll want to stay for, but that's very rare. So what it means is that you've got lots of time. And so our roster is 40 right now of active locums that we and we're always looking for new ones because eventually people will drop off. That lifestyle will get old for them and they will drop off. from it. So we're always looking for new locums, and that's why we continue to go, particularly to the resident recruitment fairs, where we're talking to the physicians who are just getting out of school and are starting to look for that new opportunity.
I know you're doing an excellent job. And from homemade bread to making sure everybody's comfortable, we thank you, Ann.
Councillor Cannon? No? Anyone else? And I did have a few questions for you. You mentioned that you mentioned a number of ways that Alamos Gold contributes. Are you able to quantify the in-kind contributions that Alamos Gold does contribute to the program? I'll just ask you to speak into the microphone.
So for instance, the charter service that they allow our physicians to use, we haven't attempted to know how many trips our physicians are booking on it, so it is quantifiable. But for instance, the campaign that they're currently helping us in terms of the funding of our rebranding project, that is quantifiable. But it's, I think.
Yeah, sure. So with that campaign, I think they've pledged to date $1,000 to support the first phase. And essentially what we're trying to do is ensure that when we go out to the public, we're rememberable. Like, people remember who we are. There's a few features that we're always going to promote that really it's stick in everybody's mind. I do think our swag, when we go to the events, our swag are all sort of top notch. And some of the support that we get from municipality supports that as well. There's some things that we take away now that sets us in minds, but we want to make sure that because of a communication standpoint, folks can pinpoint where North Algoma is, how we're supporting the larger region. I do know that we did some work last year in regards to how many flights, and I know that it was over 40 flights in a year that they had supported. So that's a huge amount. Even more recently, we do have a visiting psychiatry program out of Ottawa for our Francophone community members. And because they were able to be supported by Alamos, what we found was that provider, the physician, was able to add additional time for community to offer more service, less time traveling, time for patients. We know that for our core group, supporting them as well as our locums, but also our specialty programs, the benefits of that as well. So a big support from that partner, and it's affecting good patient care.
Excellent. And I do have a couple of other questions. WAWA's support is, or the other municipalities that also get service from the Lady Dunn Health Center, is their contribution on par with the municipalities of WAWA, or are they also having a similar presentation where they are considering increasing their contribution to the program?
I would say to date, the conversation has been for support where possible. I think into the future, whether it be based on size or whatever, that could be a conversation that we can broach into the future about how we have sort of a parity or based on size. So to date, it has been, what can we bring to how can we support? Into the future, I think opportunities to do a bit more on that for all the.
Okay, and I guess my third question, again on the same streamline, there's certainly no question that this is a very, very valuable program, and we certainly see the value in it, but with resources certainly at a premium, is there any discussion on reaching out to any other private sector partners in WAWA and the Superior East region, aside from the two big, Alamos and Argonaut, to inquire whether or not they're willing to support a program like this? Or has it just been mainly
open to partnerships and anyone that wants to come on board and support. I think we probably just had a very cautious approach because, you know, we have different ways that we reach out to the community support. And so in our very early of resuming our Norfolk Recruitment and Retention Committee, we had a more pointed approach. I think as we get into the future and may need to spread that a bit more, we're not opposed to that. I think in just getting started, we wanted to, you know, just on board members have a pointed approach, but that doesn't stop us from in the future widening that reach as.
Okay, great. And I'll make one last call to council for questions. Great work. Absolutely. It's, you know, my hats off, kudos to Anne and the committee. It's excellent work, and anything that the municipality can do to support. We will receive the presentation this evening, and it will come back around for future discussion.
Thank you again for your time, and in any way that will be at the table, we'll be very appreciative. And again, we have appreciated your time and your support in the previous years.
Thank you. Oh, Anne and Katie, and one thing that we do for everybody who does make a delegation is I give them a goose pin, but I feel like that will be lost on you. I thought so. Would you like one special for you?
Conversation starter. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your delegation and presentation. We'll now move on to item number 5, adoption of minutes. 5.1, Committee of the Whole meeting, Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. May I please have somebody make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented? Councillor Hoffman? Councillor Opato? All in favor? Carried. Item number 6, business arising out of previous meeting. 6.1, draft fire department establishing and regulating bylaw. Maury, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. And this was on council's agenda a couple of weeks ago and presented by the fire chief. It was shared with council, so council would have opportunity to review the draft and provide comments. So we're adding it tonight again on the corporate agenda to inquire if council had any questions, concerns, or input with the view of drafting establishing a regulating bylaw that we could bring back to council potentially on March 19th for adoption.
Thank you very much, Maury. Are there any comments, questions from council? Councillor Cannon?
Maury, can you explain again the wording? Because some of the wording, to me, I had questions about the way it was worded. Can you explain that?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Cannon, through the mayor. And it gives me opportunity to share with council that I understand the wording can be confusing sometimes. And under the proposed bylaw, under section 3.1, it is stated that the fire chief shall report to the CAO. Now that can sound like it's not covering council's responsibility, because as I shared with council in the fall, there was an interpretation of the Fire Protection Act that states that the fire chief is ultimately responsible to council for the fire prevention and suppression services, fire protection in the municipality. So it becomes confusing at times about Does that mean the fire chief reports to council? Or should the fire chief report through another position within the municipality? So the optimum words are report to the CAO, or is it the fire chief is responsible to council? Well, it's both. And what it means is that ultimately council is responsible to make sure that fire protection services at a level that council determines is provided to the community, and that the fire chief has to implement that level of service. But the fire chief and council can delegate the responsibility, which it has, through policy and job descriptions, organizational reviews, that it is most efficient for the fire chief to report to on operational matters, on personnel matters, on those matters that aren't ultimately defined as council's primary goals, to the CAO. So I did a little bit of research, and I just picked this job ad randomly just to try to explain this to council. The Leamington job description for the fire chief that's posted today states, reporting to the Director of Community Development Services, the fire chief is responsible for the management of all aspects of the fire services department. This position oversees fire prevention, fire investigation, inspection, but the fire chief ensures compliance with municipal policy, bylaws, and other legislations through the CAO. So there are a lot of different ways that this can be worded in a regulating bylaw, but the wording proposed in the draft bylaw was suggested from the Lumex group. We have since revised it based on input we received from the Fire Committee of Council, who would like it explained a little better so it's more clear. And the proposal at this time is that the fire chief reports to the CAO, but is ultimately responsible to the council for fire services in the community. So I know sometimes it's a difficult concept, but the words are report to or responsible to, and ultimately council is responsible for every service in the community. You know that some members of council were able to attend the water training, how important it is that council ultimately is responsible for all services and programs. So we are recommending at this time, subject to input, that organizational structure, which is recommended in the Lumex report. There's a picture of a proposed organizational structure where it's council, the CAO, and the fire chief, and then the rest of the department, of course, the firefighters, deputy report to the fire chief. I hope that answers what I do appreciate is a complex play on words for council to understand.
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council? Councillor Hoffman? Councillor Hatfield?
Yes. Maury, I'm not, I'm mixed up a little bit in the wording too. When it comes to asking the fire chief, if we had this done, or is there, are you doing the housing, are you doing the buildings? Like, are we allowed to ask that, or is that not in the, like, I'm not sure what I could ask and not ask.
Thank you, Councillor Hatfield. And through the mayor, I might ask for the mayor to add on to my response. The issue becomes, is it a council responsibility on a governance side and a policy side, or is it an operational matter? And our policies to date state the council has delegated that authority to me to be responsible for being the liaison between council and the fire chief on matters of operation. So I don't like to say council's not allowed. We always, as a whole team, invite council to ask us questions directly, but there's also respect for chain of command. So I want to answer you, and I hope the mayor will maybe qualify this better, that we want to be open and answer your questions, so we don't seem harm in asking some questions, but no direction. Council should not ever give direction to any member of staff, including the CAO. That's a joint decision of council. To a point, right? To a point. So we have up until now in our orientation with council recommended that any questions to the team come through the CAO. Ultimately, that is the chain of command. But that's not to say as a team, and I know council understands, we also have open door policies and we invite you to ask us questions of a general nature at any time. I hope that's answering your question.
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying, Lori. The fire committee that we have too is going to be a big help to questions that we could put to the fire committee, and that the meeting they could ask if we're allowed to know, fine, stuff like, we can do that.
I believe so. Councillor Hoffman is the chair of the fire committee. So again, like the example of the staff communications, questions to the fire committee should ultimately go through the chair, which would be a member of council, which then should come to me. So yes, you can go to all members of the committee, but ideally and really simply best and quickest, you just give me a quick call and I'll get you the response.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean, Mayor and Council, that again, we invite questions all the time of a general nature.
Yeah, we've all been learning so much this year. Okay, thanks, Lori.
And I will take the opportunity that Maury presented me with to add on. We have been provided with these really great handouts that really define council and staff's role. And I encourage everybody to really look at those. It's very important, and there's huge liability when council steps outside of their official council role. So it's a very slippery slope. So just a word of caution. Are there any other questions? Councillor Opato? No input. With that said, we will move on to item number 7, monthly reports. 7.1, Community Services and Tourism Department. Mr. Patterson, the floor is yours.
For the meeting moving forward, I'll just offer council the opportunity to ask me any questions about the report, and then we'll move on.
Are there any questions for Alex? Councillor Hatfield?
Alex, the Reggie report, I don't understand why you put the monies involved. Are your guys off for 2 weeks that they don't have to work? Or like when you add on your hours at the community center and that?
Councillor Hatfield, I think you're asking about a different report.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought we could ask any report, but that was his,
This is on the monthly report.
and that's not in the monthly report.
Correct.
What is it in?
That is a new business.
New business, so I could ask him that then.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Is there any questions for Alex on his monthly report? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business 8.1 for the arena ice extension request, Wawa Minor Hockey. Alex, the floor is yours.
Okay, so we have received a request from Wawa Minor Hockey for an arena ice extension until the weekend of April 5th to 7th, 2024. The reason we've received this is because the NOHA Tournament of Champions, which is essentially the end of year tournament for the NOHA, has been changed until that weekend for 2 of the oldest teams that are participating. So we did a quick review, very similar to the review that we did for the curling ice. So I've provided you with a quick breakdown. Thanks for the advanced copy of your question. So I'll answer that right now. In that breakdown there, the additional staffing cost is specifically related to my seasonal full-time staff member. So that particular staff person's contract is directly related to the ice in and ice out schedule because they're a week before ice in, a week after ice out. So that additional cost is specific to that individual's, essentially that's including like Mercs and all of the extra costs that are added for a staff member for that 2 weeks in particular. Does that answer your question?
Just to clarify what Alex is saying, so everyone is able to understand, our union contract states that the seasonal position ends on 2 weeks after the ice is out. So every time the ice is extended longer than set out in policy, there is a direct staffing cost, because that position may have ended their employment 2 weeks after, which would have been April 4th, let's say. But when we extend the ice to April 4th, then his end date becomes April 18th. So I'm hoping that clarifies. The union contract states the date the ice is out, the employee stays employed for 2 weeks after. So every time it's extended, there is a direct relatable cost to that. Does that help?
That makes more sense.
Thank you.
Because I didn't understand your report at all, Alex.
No problem. Okay, so I've given council a cost breakdown of that. It's important to note that this cost breakdown is utility costs. The curling ice season, we've estimated that curling is about 25% of these utility costs. So as council's aware, council has extended the curling ice for essentially until that weekend. And so 25% of those costs have already been approved by council. In review, we've also reached out to all of the arena ice user groups to inquire if they would be interested in a no cancellations policy, if they would keep their ice, things like that. They all said yes. So all of our user groups are willing to keep that ice, and keep that ice to the point where even if they have to cancel for whatever reason, they will still pay for that ice for that 2 week. So I've also given council some revenue numbers there. So at the end of the day, based on council's decision to keep the curling ice in later, based on the revenue and expense numbers, we're recommending that we extend the arena ice up till that weekend to allow those teams to play competitively in their TOCs. I'd also like to make one more note of this. This is something that comes up on a really regular basis. I think every year for the past several years, we've had some type of extension request. And so I think that if council is going to consider this request, as well as take my recommendation to extend the arena ice season, I would also like to see us review the dates for this, because we don't want to come back to council year after year after year with these issues. It frustrates the arena staff. It certainly frustrates our user groups. And I think it frustrates council to continually get the same request year over year. So very similar to how we amended the policy for the fee waivers to not make the fixture become year over year over year. We'd like to do the same thing here. Now, NOHAs has changed their TOC dates. It used to be at the end of March break. That has changed since the pandemic, and I think it only makes sense for our schedule to match that, since that's the league that our teams play in. So we'd certainly, that's a discussion for another day, and we'd certainly be happy to bring a draft to council with some feedback from the user groups and staff, but we would like to both recommend that the ice season is extended, as well as recommend that that policy be looked at.
Thank you very much, Alex. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Cannon.
Is the canteen going to be open during this time? You're going to extend that also?
Yep.
Okay.
Councillor Hoffman.
I understand when I was talking with Peter that this tournament or whatever it is going to be an ongoing thing now because of the NOHA. So when you're saying that we could fix this problem before it becomes a problem, all we have to do is say, okay, we'll keep the ice in till beginning of or end of March or something for all users. And then that way we don't have to worry about them coming back to us and saying, well, we got a tournament.
Councillor Rapato.
All my questions were answered.
Councillor Hatfield, do you have any other questions?
When did you find out about this tournament?
A couple days before the letter.
What do you mean, the letter?
So we received a letter from Wawa Minor Hockey.
Oh, okay.
A couple days before the letter.
So you didn't know any time before that?
I didn't necessarily know. Stacy probably knew a little bit about it, and her and I have had discussions about it.
Okay, because NOHA is responsible to let you know a long time before you got your letter. And that's in their bylaws. Like, you have to let the teams know. There's a lot of planning to that. And I would say that to the NOHA.
Alex, I just wanted you to expand and provide council with a little bit more information on what happens to our arena in our infrastructure when we run our plant outside of cold months. I know in your report you indicated that we might have some mold concerns from humidity. Is that something that council should be concerned about when we get these requests and we're operating our facility? Is our facility designed to operate outside of kind of the traditional winter months?
So no, the facility isn't designed to operate out of the traditional winter months. We've made some upgrades. If you remember when the Chris Simon Hockey School was here and it rained inside the arena, and that's where we had those mold issues, we put another dehumidifier in. I think how I describe that best is it's like having a leak in your boat and then putting a second bilge pump in. That's great, but it hasn't fixed the leak in your boat. The facility's envelope is quite poor. It was designed before the building code in the arena in particular. And so it isn't great at dealing with high humidity, high temperatures outside, things like that. So outside of your traditional season, I would say it does struggle a little bit, very weather dependent. So some Septembers, it'll be fairly cold outside. Some Aprils, it'll be really hot outside. And so it'll be very variable. The second dehumidifiers help significantly. So since we've installed that, since we've installed the ducting system, we haven't had any mold concerns in there. We've had a couple high humidity days, but nothing past the arena glass fogging up. Like there hasn't been rain in there anymore, things like that. And that's where you really get concerned. We also have used it a little bit differently as well, taking out activities like the dance in there for the drag races, things that provided a whole bunch of extra dust kicking up in the air right before the humidity became a problem. Those are all things that you're worried about with mold. So there is some concern. There is, of course, like an extra 2 weeks of runtime. There's always going to be wear and tear on equipment, things like that. That's 2 weeks of extra wear and tear. There's no way around that for sure. And certainly the ice making equipment and the dehumidification equipment runs more directly in proportion with the temperature outside.
Okay. So if I can summarize what you're looking for council today, you're looking for us to accept your report recommending extending the ice season to match the curling season. And you're looking for council to give you guidance on amending policy similar to what we've done with the ice fishing derby, so we don't continually receive these requests in the future, which I believe based on the comments received, council is in alignment. There are no objections to any of those issues mentioned.
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay.
If I may, Mayor, to just qualify what you summarized, there is to give minor hockey and the users sufficient notice, as well as staff to make preparations to rearrange their schedules to accommodate the request. The resolution proposed tonight, which can be amended by council, states after review with the director that council supports the request and would extend the ice up until the end of day Thursday, April 4th. Now, the rationale for that wording is that upon review with the director of the fact that the teams that are playing in tournaments are leaving to go play their tournaments out of town, and the direct number of hours you can see in the chart in Alex's report, that only 3 hours guaranteed on Sunday, and really those are our hours we're only offering as public skating. The revenues are so small and so minor, and the purpose of the extension is to accommodate our youth to prepare for these events. So the resolution will word to, I think it's Thursday, April 4th, and that really is a bit of a cost reduction issue, and it gives us opportunity then to lay off, end the employment also of the additional operator a little bit earlier, should it have gone all the way to the Sunday. Again, that's how I proposed the resolution on council's agenda tonight, but council's always able to amend that resolution, provided someone makes an amendment and 2 members of council support that amendment to go forward for a full vote. So thank you. Just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you very much for that clarification. I'm asking that any councillor that has objection to Maureen's clarification, I'm seeing nodding heads. It seems like council is in alignment with the proposed wording in the resolution. So, perfect. Thank you very much. We will now move on to item 8.2, CAO 2024-5, stop up and close Beck Avenue.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. To bring Council up to speed, Council had addressed this item on agenda back in the fall and reviewed the piece of property that the municipality owns that is directly at the intersection of Hillcrest and Beck, where you enter into Hillcrest Heights. There's a roadway there. We discovered there's a roadway called Beck Avenue. And so it is registered as a road. And the abutting owner approached council to purchase part of that roadway. Council agreed, but it took a few steps. So first, the municipality had to get a survey. That survey had to be approved and registered. And then we've advertised where required that council is proposing a stop up and close bylaw, which technically means you're saying it's not a road anymore, so you can proceed to sell part of it to the abutting owner. There's the technical component to this. Any roadway that's stopped up and closed and sold has to be sold to the abutting owners. So council agreed to sell 8 feet of the 66-foot road allowance to the abutting owner and retain the remainder, because it would mean that council can provide 1 vacant residential lot to the community after the fact. So it still leaves 58-foot frontage and makes a nice residential lot. So council is going through the stop up and close process, which requires adding. So it'll come to council on March 19th for a decision and hopefully approval. And with that, council also has an obligation under our policies to declare any land that the municipality owns as vacant and then go through a sale process. So the residential lot won't be coming forward for council to determine whether it should be sold at this time. It will in the future. The primary purpose is to stop up and close, declare the property service, so the 8 feet, which has been surveyed, can be sold to the abutting owner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maury. Are there any questions, comments from council? Seeing none, there are no objections. Council is aligned with the recommendation that's included in your report. We will move on to item 8.3, the infrastructure memo regarding the water tower upgrades, additional funds request. Rebecca, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. So our infrastructure services management team were requesting that the $100,000 that was originally allocated for the CCTV investigation of storm and sanitary sewers be reallocated this year to water tower upgrades. The reason for that being is last year we had some excess capital budget and we had said, hey, Landmark, who was originally procured for the project, let's get this done right now. We've got access hatches, safety equipment, ladder inspection, some internal painting, all kinds of just little bits and pieces to make our water tower safer and better for the community that it services. And so unfortunately, in the procurement of some of those pieces that got delayed, and then as WATEC was here to CCTV our intake, we were like, well, let's take a look at what the inside of the tower looks like. And our mixer was actually detached from its electrical cord. So we had them use their rover to go down and collect it. And so what the mixer was originally installed for was to make sure that the chlorine that was added to the tank got mixed and moved around evenly throughout the tank. It wasn't just sitting stagnant in the one spot that it gets put into the tank. And then on top of that, it acts as a mechanism to keep water moving in the wintertime to make sure it doesn't freeze and so we don't get a big ice cube in the tower. And so we got the mixer out. Of course, again, the procurement of a mixer is not quite the easiest thing to do. And so we just actually got it this past week. It just came in. And as we were talking about, ways that we could reinstall this new mixer to replace the old one, which is a really important piece of infrastructure for our tower, one of our contractors noted that our ladder needs to be inspected before somebody can go up it safely. It is overdue for that inspection. So what we are hoping you guys will agree with is that the $100,000 for the CCTV investigation, which is a nice to have, it's not a must have. The reason we really wanted it in the budget was so that we could take a look at some of our underground infrastructure and start to compare that with our street scan and start to prioritize streets that had, crumbling infrastructure underneath, crumbling infrastructure on top, and we'll, kind of kill two birds with one stone. I hate repaving a road that has things that are broken underneath it. So, trying to marry those two ideas together to create a full project. But unfortunately, this water tower update to me definitely takes precedent over a rover inspection. And so I'm just hoping that this year we can move the funds for the CCTV over to the water tower. And in 2025, we actually had $175,000 towards water tower upgrades anyway, which is part of this landmark project. So this $100,000 is more than enough to cover off the water tower. And then we can just move the water tower funds from 2025 over to the CCT investigation. So we're just asking for things to be shuffled around a little bit, and we'll get the tower fixed, and then we can start investigating what's under the road.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Are there any questions, comments, or objections to council or to Rebecca's recommendation to allow for a relocation of the $100,000 for this project? Councillor Hoffman?
I just want to think, I think the relocation is a good idea because you and the mayor and Kathy want to have good drinking water.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hoffman. Councillor Cannon?
This mixer, you said you just received it. What have you been doing in the meantime?
So what we've been doing, we're very fortunate. This winter's been really good to us. So it hasn't been freezing a lot. So to sort of combat that and sort of simulate water fluctuating and moving, we've actually been changing the height within the tower. So typically we operate within like a 1 meter kind of up and down. Instead, we've been operating at like changing the water value or depth at like 4 to 5 meters to sort of simulate getting it to cycle over and things like that. But it's quite labor intensive for staff to keep going and doing that. So it's easier to operate within that sort of 1 meter range and then to have the mixer inside. But very fortunate we did not have freezing temperatures this year.
Yeah, very fortunate.
Reb, is this, can this problem be attributed to why our water is so cold coming out of our taps in the mission?
Yes, in the mission, the reason some of our water is so cold is just because in that tank an ice cube does form. I mean, it's not as big when we're fluctuating water, moving it around, but you're completely right. It's definitely temperature related and ice cube related.
It's delicious water, though. Councillor Opato, Councillor Hatfield, any questions? You have there's no opposition, and Councillor supports your recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 8.4, additional funds for trench box. Please continue.
All right, Mayor and Council. So this past December, we had a small curb stop leak at a service that was sort of dead ended in a strange spot in the boulevard by Highway 101. Fortunately, Alex, part of our Joint Health and Safety Committee, myself and our staff, we got the hole dug, we got everything shut off. But part of the things that we were looking at when we were doing that dig was the fact that, hey, this would probably be safer and better for our staff if we had a trench box. We do a lot of digging, especially in the cemetery, again, for water service digs. Some of them are quite deep, and so therefore to comply with legislation and the Green Book, Occupational Health and Safety Act, and our own policies about trenching, it is important that we do have safety devices like trench boxes available, especially when you get into some deeper, trickier spots. So we took a look at 3 different suppliers and decided Equipment World and the Sioux had the one that would best fit our needs for about $28,000 plus HST. So we're hoping that, with the support of the Joint Health and Safety Committee and our staff actually in our department, that Mayor and Council approve this request to have some additional funds to purchase a trench box.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Are there any questions, councils? Any questions, comments, concerns from council? Councillor Cannon?
Why right now for this trench box? Like, why didn't this come up during budgeting or when you were doing your operating budget or with the capital budget? Why is this now that you're asking for the additional funds?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think, you know, we had a fresh set of eyes on the job site in December, and by that time, we are sort of pushing budget through already. And so you're right, we definitely could have sort of intervened maybe sooner and said, hey, this is something we have to have. But I think in the best interest of, you know, at the recommendation of the Joint Health and Safety Committee and our staff, that we move forward with the trench box. So, not a great answer. I mean, I think we've been very fortunate so far. We haven't used trench boxes, haven't had to use them. But I think when it comes down to the safety of our staff, this is going to be something that we really need to, for best practices, bring this on board to do digs.
Well, yeah, because I'm surprised we haven't had one before, because they are, I mean, they use them all for pipelines, they use them all for different things. And when you said what it would be used for, it was like, how did we get along all this time without one? Like,
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And yeah, all I can say is we're trying to do better. So that's hopefully this trench box helps us move forward in the right direction.
thanks, Rebecca.
Are there any questions? Other questions? Seeing none, I believe that council is aligned with your recommendation.
Thank you.
Item 8.5, Mayor memo for regarding the Roma highlights. First off, I'd like to apologize for the late arrival. I attended Roma in the end of January, specifically January 21st to the 23rd. The municipality had arranged 2 delegations, and I provided just a short summary of both. The municipality met with the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services, as well as the Ministry of Infrastructure. So I encourage council to take a look at both of the summaries provided. Other notable Roma events included the official launch of the Northern Ontario Women's Caucus, and both Maury and I attended many learning sessions that included CMHC housing events, addressing municipal staff and recruitment sessions, and Indigenous partners on unlocking the power of collaboration. So happy to answer any questions or receive any comments from council regarding Roma.
Just
Councillor Hoffman?
dam, was that the dam thing you're asking about with the minister?
Yes, we spoke to the Associate Minister Charmaine Williams about the fair and equitable treatment of the Power Dam grant and how it affects municipality's share of the DSAB funding formula. So,
And we didn't get it.
well, I don't want to say we didn't get anywhere, but it's certainly going to be a long road. We didn't get an instant solution to our problem. And hearing and seeing no other questions, we will move on. There are no items listed in item 9, 10, or 11. So the next meeting date is Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. And so we'll move on to item number 13, adjourn. 13.1, close of meeting. May I have somebody make a motion to close? Councillor Huffman? May I have a seconder? Councillor Pato? All in favor? Carried. And we'll just give everybody a few minutes to move over to their next agenda. Thank you to everyone who stayed for the entire meeting. Have a great night.
Good night.
Right.
So now, they just don't have to dig a bigger hole.
this meeting to order and note the members present at 7:35 p.m. Item number 2, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Hearing and seeing none, we will move on to item number 3, approval of agenda.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hoffman, resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council scheduled for Tuesday, March the 5th, 2024 be approved as presented.
All in favor? Carried. There are no delegations or presentations, so we will move on to number 5, announcements and giving of notice. Are there any announcements from council? Seeing none, I encourage everybody to take a look at the announcements that are noted on the agenda. Item number 6, adoption of minutes.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Cannon, resolved that the following minutes of the meetings of council be adopted as presented. Minutes of a regular meeting of council held on Tuesday, February 20th, 2024 as contained on pages 1 to 10 inclusive of the minute book. Minutes of a statutory public meeting held on Wednesday, February 20th, 2024 as contained on pages 1 to 3 inclusive of the minute book.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 7, correspondence. There are a handful of items of correspondence listed. Maury, is there anything that you would like council to pay particular attention to?
Very quickly, Mayor, thank you. On 7.1, unfortunately, it was noticed that we did not receive the grant we applied for under the Community Emergency Management Program. They had an overabundance of applications and limited budget was the response for the rationale why we didn't get the grant. We had applied for new furniture and a training room, the equipment for the fire hall in the grant. Unfortunately, we'll look for another avenue to receive some support for that. As the mayor noted, there's the media release about the Northern Women's Caucus. That's all the correspondence to note of interest tonight.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Item number 8, consent agenda.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Apado, resolved that the items listed under the consent agenda 8.2 to 8.3 be approved as recommended.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 9, staff reports / memos.
Moved by Councillor Pato, seconded by Councillor Hatfield, resolved that the Council of the Corporation Municipality Wawa does hereby receive the following staff reports and memos. Community Services and Tourism Department, AP 2024-05, January 2024. AP Memo, Arena Ice Extension Request, Wawa Minor Hockey. CAO 2024-06, Stop Up and Close Beck Avenue. DBRW Memo, Water Tower Upgrades Additional Funds Request. DBRW Memo, Additional Funds Request for Trench Box. And finally, Mayor Memo, Roma Delegation.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 10, business arising out of previous meeting.
Moved by Councillor Pato, seconded by Councillor Hatfield. Whereas a report was provided to Council on January 16th, 2024, recommending changes to hours of operation at the municipal waste disposal site with respect to reducing days open and total hours of operation. Therefore, be it resolved that Council of the Municipality Wawa does hereby approve the changes in hours of operation at the municipal waste disposal site as follows. Closed Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Open Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And further, that public education engagement be completed regarding the changes in hours and level of service beginning May 19, 2024, and updated signage be installed when available at the waste disposal site.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 11, new business.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Pato, whereas under Ontario Regulation 391-21, Blue Box producers are fully accountable and financially responsible for their products and packaging once they reach their end of life and are disposed of for eligible sources only. And whereas ineligible sources, which producers are not responsible for, include businesses, places of worship, daycares, campgrounds, public-facing and internal areas of municipal-owned buildings, and not-for-profit organizations such as shelters and food banks. And whereas should a municipality continue to provide services to the ineligible sources, the municipality will be required to oversee the collection, transportation, and processing of the recycles, assuming 100% of the cost. Therefore, be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Wawa hereby requests that the province amend Ontario Regulation 39121 blue boxes so that producers are responsible for the end-of-life management of recycling products from all sources. And further, that this resolution be forwarded to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Andre Kungin, Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, and Michael Mantha, MPP, Algoma, Manitoulin, and to all Ontario municipalities.
All in favor? Carried. Item 11.2.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, second by Councillor Cannon, resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Wawa, having considered the correspondence from the town of Plimpton, Wyoming, and Township of Larder Lake regarding support for amendment to the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer and support this correspondence and attached motion from the City of Greater Sudbury, and further that the copy of our resolution be sent to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable David Piccini, Minister of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, and the Honourable Paul Calandra, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and to all Ontario municipalities.
All in favor? Carried. Item 11.3.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, seconded by Councillor Cannon, whereas the provincial government has established the Housing Enabling Water System Fund to fund projects through the repair, rehabilitation, expansion of core water, wastewater, and stormwater projects to promote growth and enable housing. And whereas projects that are eligible for this funding program must enable growth in housing opportunities, increase access to potable water, and increase the treatment and management of wastewater and stormwater. And whereas the province is providing 73% funding for projects, requiring applicants to fund the remaining 27%, therefore be resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby approve that an HEWSF application be submitted for the Tamarack, Maple, and Birch Water and Wastewater Service Extension Project to enable up to 42 new residential lots to be shovel-ready for housing development. And further, that Council of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby approve a financial contribution of up to $750,000, being 27% of the project cost, to come from the following municipal sources should the funding application be approved. $400,000 to come from the Ontario Community Investment Fund, $200,000 to come from the Water General Capital Reserve Fund, $100,000 to come from the Federal Gas Tax Reserve, and $50,000 to come from general taxation in the year 2025.
All in favor? Carried. Item 11.4.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, second by Councillor Hoffman, whereas the Municipality of Wawa engaged Landmark Municipal Services to procure their services for much-needed upgrades to the water tower in the Michipicoten River Village, and whereas critical equipment failure has required the upgrades to be expedited, therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby accept the staff recommendation to allow for the reallocation of $100,000 to the MRV water tower upgrade project that was originally budgeted for the CCTV investigation equipment in 2024.
All in favor? Carried. 11.5.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Pato, whereas municipal staff are occasionally required to dig trenches to address underground infrastructure deficiencies and to provide full casket burial services at the cemetery, and whereas the purchase of a trench box is necessary to ensure compliance with occupational health and safety legislation and to protect municipal staff from potential injury, and whereas the Infrastructure Services Management Team, in conjunction with the municipality's Joint Health and Safety Committee, have requested additional funds for the purchase of the trench box. Therefore be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby approve the purchase of a trench box for $28,375 to ensure staff safety and legislative compliance when completing underground work.
All in favor? Carried. 11.6.
Moved by Councillor Hoffman, second by Councillor Cannon. Whereas Wawa Minor Hockey has requested council to extend the arena ice-in season for 2 weeks past the regular ice-in season. And whereas policy MM01 arena ice use states that the regular ice season means the time period between the last Monday in September to the third Monday in March, unless the annual adult hockey tournament curling bonspiel occurs on a weekend that begins March 30th or 31st, then the arena ice will be removed the Monday following that tournament. And whereas the arena ice is scheduled to be removed on Monday, March 25th, and whereas Section 8.2 Policy MM01 states that the opening of arena facilities on statutory holidays or beyond established operating hours may be considered only if the applicant agrees to pay the full operational costs for such an opening and municipal staff is available. Therefore, be it resolved that Council of the Municipality Wawa hereby waives the requirements of Policy MM01 and approves to extend the arena ice season from Monday, March 25th, 2024 to Thursday, April 4th, 2024, and will not require Wawa Minor Hockey Association and any other user to pay the full cost of the ice extension period. And further, that policy MM01 is to be reviewed and updated and include a set of criteria for determining future ice extension requests that do not meet the requirements of Council Policy MM01, and staff to bring back a recommendation to Council at a future meeting.
All in favor? Carried. There are no items under item number 12. Item number 13, bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, second by Councillor Hoffman, resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw number 3680-24 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 5th day of March 2024. Bylaw number 3681-24 to authorize the Corporation of the Municipality Wawa to enter into an agreement with Mr. Vincent Burton and Bernadine Burton respecting a land use permit on municipal property located at 55 Winston Road. Bylaw number 3682-24 to enter into an agreement with His Majesty the King in Right of the Province of Ontario, as represented by Sault Ste. Marie Central Ambulance Communication Centre for the provision of fire dispatching services. And bylaw number 3683-24 to provide for the participation of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa Fire Department in the Algoma District of Algoma and/or Provincial Mutual Aid Plan.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 14, closed session.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Pato, resolved that this committee proceed in camera at 7:49 p.m. in order to address the following matters pertaining to: number one, a legal issue, an offer to purchase property related to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land. It's under section of the Municipal Act C-25, section 2392, that council is permitted to go in camera. The second item is a legal issue. It's a land matter. It's a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality covered under the Municipal Act, section 239-2C. And finally, a legal item. It's an outstanding property tax issue, and it falls under personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and it's permissible to go in camera under section 2392B of the Municipal Act.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 15, return to open session.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Cannon. Resolved that the council resume to the open meeting session at 8:27 p.m.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 16, business arising from closed session.
Moved by Councillor Pado, seconded by Councillor Hatfield. Whereas Council of the Municipality of Wawa has passed bylaw 363523, being a bylaw to enter into a memorandum and lease agreement with Michpocotton First Nation, supporting the Department of Fisheries and Oceans Marina Divestiture Plan, a plan of which all parties have agreed to and executed. And whereas the Municipality of Wawa desires to provide and to register on title a public road allowance to the water lot, property legally described as parcel 11692, section AWS, lands adjacent to Superior Street, Plan M26, accreted lands in Michpocotton in the district of Algoma, designated as Part 1 on Plan IR 7564, being all of PIN 31175-0151LT, known locally as the Wawa Marina Docks, to ensure that a public access route is provided to the water lot, and to ensure that the said property is not landlocked or prevented from having guaranteed legal access across municipal lands legally described as lands adjacent to Superior Street, accreted lands, Plan M26 Michpocotton in the district of Algoma, designated as Part 6 on Plan IR 7233, for persons to gain access to the water lot now and in the future. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Wawa confirms that, following receipt of correspondence from Fisheries and Oceans Canada, requesting a road allowance to be created across municipal land as proposed herein, Council will authorize, undertake, and complete a legal survey and register on title a municipal road allowance across the municipal lands that provides legal access to the Marina water lot, subject to execution of the DFO grant funding agreement with Wawa.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 17, next meeting date, Wednesday. I think that there might be an error.
Mayor, if I may, sorry, I apologize. It is an error. We should normally put our regular meeting dates would be March
19th, Tuesday, March 19th.
19th, but staff may have noted, as council had agreed, that next Wednesday, March 13th, is it? March 13th, we scheduled a special council meeting to further discuss budget and the financials.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for the clarification, because I definitely was caught off guard by that. Item number 18, adjournment.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Rapato, resolved that the meeting close at 8:31 p.m.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much for everyone's hard work this evening. Have a great night, and we'll see you March